I want to take a moment and welcome every single one of you to tonight's wellness masterclass of It's So Much More. And tonight we have a really special treat for you. We are going to be talking about gut and immune health. And we have Carly Guerrero here, and she is going to be teaching us tonight. And she has been a physical therapist practicing for the last 9 years. And she just recently also was certified as a gut specialist as well. So she has a ton of great information. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her. So Carly, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I was really excited that the topic is gut and immune health. I started my kind of herbal nutrition journey about 2 years ago, and I've been researching a lot about gut health. So I'm kind of excited to talk to you guys, the anatomy side of it, and then just some practical things that we can do. Okay, so why gut and immune health are so important. We're going to talk about your gut first and why your gut is a glorious thing. So if you think about it, there are actually trillions of bacteria in our body, in our gut. And you might think bacteria, that's a terrible thing, but bacteria are a good thing, part of our makeup, and so we kind of want to embrace it. There's gut bacteria on our skin, in our gut, and it's part of our functioning. So it's actually, for me, think about it like an ecosystem. There's bacteria, all these viruses, all these other organisms. And if you think about it like an ecosystem, like the rainforest or something in nature that you've got to water, take care of, if you think about it that way, I think that puts a different perspective on it. In, I guess, popular, if you're out there searching the microbiome, that's a buzzword, right? But microbiome is kind of all over the place, and you might be thinking, what exactly is that? So the whole community of bacteria, those trillions of bacteria, that's your microbiota, and then the microbiome is just its genetic code. So just know that that's where that microbiome comes from. You might have also heard that our gut is our second brain, and it releases messengers, neurotransmitters. Just a few of those are serotonin, dopamine, and histamine. Serotonin, you think about like the feel-good chemicals in our body. Dopamine, there's some implications there. If your dopamine is out of balance, that's what happens when folks develop Parkinson's. And then histamine, if you have allergies, the allergy response is histamine. Okay, and the next one. So our digestive system is more than just our stomach. It starts from when you put food in your mouth, chewing it up, salivating, all the way through our stomach, our intestines, the pancreas, liver, and gallbladder working with those organs, and each part has a role to play. So just like those dreaded group projects, if somebody or an organ is working too hard, somebody else has to pick up the slack. Just think of, every part has to play a role. And if you're deficient in one area, you're going to see it in your health. The microbiota that we were talking about, it breaks down your food into substances that we can use. So if you're eating protein, going to break it down to the amino acid building blocks, breaking fats to fatty acids, and carbohydrates to sugar. Digestion is also highly related to our metabolism. So tonight we're looking at the gut as the center of our health, and we're going to look at a few facts about the gut. So the first fact is that your gut health is the foundation for a healthy immune system. And interestingly enough, the more that we study autoimmune conditions, that's where we're getting a lot of this information from. Studying what's going on when somebody has an autoimmune condition has shown us that the microbiota actually develop immune cells, and our gut lining is releasing antibodies into the gut. So a lot of intricate processes going on there. And then that bottom statement about the clarity of your mind, depending on your gut. your gut and your brain is actually a two-way communication. So your gut sending hormones and cytokines back and forth between your brain, and that starts as soon as we consume food. When the body is stressed, it cannot function properly. So when cortisol and insulin levels rise, anywhere you read about cortisol, we just hear cortisol is so bad for us. A high level of cortisol is what that does to our functioning, our stress levels. There's a whole industry on cortisol, right? On weight management, metabolism. It's a huge industry. Think about stress as actually a toxin. So we want to kind of think outside the box with meditation, nutrition, ways that we can manage stress and decrease it. And then fact 3, disruptions to your gut can cause major health imbalances. So I know if you get a respiratory infection and you have to be on antibiotics, you kind of feel it, right? You feel like your whole body is being broken down, and you can get GI symptoms like upset stomach, where you're like, gosh, how do I fix this? How do I get my gut back to where it was before? So that's one example. Poor diet, fast food diet, it takes its toll on us, and all that inflammation can actually lead to a leaky gut. There's also some interesting research that folks with IBS also have mood disorders. So I thought that was interesting, this slide talking about emotional toxins. We all have seasons where there's just emotional stressors and things that we're processing, but it can show itself in digestive dysfunction. And they looked at folks that were affected by depression and not affected by depression, and their microbiota was different. When they looked at it, their collection of bacteria was different in folks that had some mental health challenges. So kind of interesting that not just hearing, others' experiences, but they're starting to see some evidence about it as well. So that's what we know about gut and immune. But what could be signs of gut imbalance? I'm sure if you guys look at this list, you can raise a hand like, oh, okay, yeah, leaky gut. The best way that I've had it explained is you want some passage, right, of particles back and forth between the gut, but leaky gut is when the junctions are too big and you're losing the nutrients, you're losing some of that good bacteria. So that's the best way that you want some permeability, and by the particles, the bacteria, to go back and forth through your body, and those neurotransmitters that I talked about to go back and forth. But that's the best way I was explaining leaky gut is it's pushing it too far. You want some pass through, but leaky gut is to the extreme, and then you're not able to absorb the nutrients. So yeah, that was a good question. Thank you. Yeah, so we were looking at these symptoms of imbalance. Fatigue, headache, brain fog might not have been an obvious one. And then obviously the cycling of like constipation, diarrhea, probably thought about those with gut imbalance. So the holistic gut course that I took talked about essential oils in different categories of plants. And 2 that are in some of the Solle products, slippery elm bark and marshmallow root, they're actually known for like soothing and calming. So if you think of diarrhea and heat conditions, you need to do the opposite, right? If your body is in a heat condition, you need to take something to calm it down. So that's the way those opposites work. There are other like oils and plants that can relieve gas. So if you have a gut imbalance, you're just trying to do the opposite and balance things out. And acidic conditions like acid reflux, indigestion, again, you're looking for something to counteract that acidity. So those are the signs. All disease begins in the gut. So gut and immune is not, as you see, Hippocrates, it's not a new thing. It's been around for quite a while. So now we're going to talk about some solutions. The first solution, happy solutions. The first solution is gluten intolerance. So I'm not talking about celiac. if you've been diagnosed with that, like that's a different thing, that it does such terrible things to you. You're not doing gluten anyhow. But a lot of people, right, seem to be gluten sensitive or do a gluten-free or a low gluten diet. Gluten is not the same gluten that our grandparents were eating. So that's one thing. It's a lot more processed. So I think that's an interesting thing to think about of why all of a sudden, is there such a problem with gluten tolerance. So that's one thing, that it's more processed, so you're not getting the nutrients, and then it has altered what we're eating. And then there's other kind of intolerances or allergies that people might have. They might have a reaction to the protein in the wheat, not actually the wheat, and you might have some fructan intolerance as well. And if you've heard people try, like, I don't do 100% gluten-free, but everyone says, try it, you'll be less bloated, you'll have more energy. So as it says here, there are some impacts to our brain, our skin, from trying some different lifestyle choices and different diets. The second solution is go pro with probiotics. So you want to maintain the balance of that gut flora or gut bacteria. You want good bacteria in there, and lifestyle choices kind of chip away at that good bacteria. So probiotics is something you can add in and help maintain or restore that balance. Probio IQ, our one product, has a lot of strains in it, so that in your body can use multiple strains to feed those bacteria. That's literally what probiotic is to feed you. Propionibacterium, the Freudenreichi, that is in our probio. It's also in Sollefit GP. So that one's one that can help us. The complete protein actually has some lactobacillus in it. It has some short chain fructo oligosaccharides. It has some things that are prebiotic and fiber. So probiotics, we're talking about just feeding our system, and then prebiotics also kind of start the interaction of getting your gut back on track. Okay, and our third solution, digestive enzymes are essential. And if I had to pick, for me, I definitely take probiotics, but for me, I've seen the most change with digestive enzymes, and kind of a quicker change. And it just could have been some of the inflammation and things that I personally was dealing with. But digestive enzymes not only help with digestion, but muscle recovery, healthy inflammatory response, and we can get them in products and in food. So papain happens to be in the Solle Complete. The Vertizymes have multiple digestive enzymes. One category, like if you have adrenal fatigue or exhaustion, you're eating, but you might not be able to absorb the nutrients. And so that could be a case where digestive enzymes could be a helpful tool for you to add in. Okay. And now we're going to look at food sources. So how do we load our body up with gut health promoting nutrition in addition to like the probiotics? So kind of got excited about this slide because it tied in with some other research and some other things that I was studying. There is a gastroenterologist, a gut doctor, that he's published his book on the lifestyle changes that he made. He was the traditional, like, overworked doctor, fatigue, fast food diet, and his now wife at the time did a plant-based diet. And so he kind of was willing to do his own research, but right off when he met her, he saw that she could get, her meals were more satisfying to her, but also she was healthier. So he was willing to try it. And then the success that he's had, instead of prescribing pills to his folks that are dealing with inflammation in the gut, he's given them lifestyle changes, nutrition. And so it's kind of a unique model. And then the book is the Fiber Fueled, if you're looking for, it's not super light reading, but it's got recipes. But yeah, I just like that he has the medical training, but he's giving people like useful lifestyle tools, and he's not pushing prescriptions on them. And the reason I bring him up, because a lot of these foods are in his recommendations. So the fermented foods is a group that he talks about a lot. And so on this list, you have sauerkraut, kefir, kimchi, and miso. And if you notice something, those represent a lot of different cultures, German culture, Korean culture, and these have been around for thousands of years, not just new products. So you might be like, I don't really understand exactly what a fermented product is. So fermenting something, it drops the pH and alters the nutrients in a good way. So like sauerkraut, taking the cabbage, then it's added value to that product, to that base product. So processing that made the food more healthy, it inhibits pathogens and can decrease inflammation. So there's a good list of fermented foods on there. We talked about digestive enzymes on the other slides. Papaya and pineapple both have digestive enzymes in them. In addition to you thinking about the obvious, they're fruit, they have vitamin C, they have some benefits to hair, skin, and nails. And both papaya, pineapple have fiber as well. And in the Gut Health MD, that's his other like foods and fiber, or a lot of the things that he's looking at. Honey on this list, honey is a probiotic, and I don't think I realized that till I had seen this list. So honey is a probiotic. It's antibacterial, antifungal, and so there's good implications there in wound healing, constipation. Ginger, a lot of us know ginger to be an anti-nausea, but it can also increase serotonin and dopamine. So those kind of feel good neurotransmitters, or those neurotransmitters that keep us moving the way that we're supposed to. Your gut deserves the best. So always when we think about ourselves, sometimes we're the last person we take care of, but really your gut, if you take care of your gut, you can do the other things that you need to do, take care of the other people you need to take care of. And then the next slide is gonna kind of tie all of it together. Simple ways to keep your digestive system running, like at full speed, actually chewing your food all the way. And I like this quote too, chew your food. And it actually, what they say is chew your drink. So even like working the drinks in your mouth so that you get the nutrients from it, and really chew your food down before swallowing it. I mentioned fiber, a lot of fiber, a lot of water, which I think a lot of us on this call could always do a little more water, but I think most of us are pretty good on staying hydrated. Get moving, exercise. I see this a lot in the hospital. I see patients like after a surgery, or if they have an infection and they're just in bed, they feel terrible. They'll get constipation like so bad, so painful. And I'm like, I know you don't want to walk, but you've got to like walk 10 feet with me. I would rather you walk 10 feet 3 times a day. Like we've got to start somewhere. And unfortunately, sometimes it gets really bad where they'll have a bowel obstruction, like a small or a large bowel obstruction. And then they're like, well, now you have to go on bowel rest, which is as terrible as it sounds. Like no food, they're just giving you IV nutrition. So it can be a long process. That's obviously the extreme of they have other health challenges, but just those times when we've got a cold or something and we're not feeling great, just a little bit of extra walking, push yourself to do that extra walking. And then the last 2 bullets on here are just kind of the vices, everything in moderation. Lower alcohol is going to keep that gut healthy. So I hope that was informative, kind of a good bit of science and some herbs and just reminders of how complex we are.
I love that. Thank you so much, Carly, for all of that information. And we'll get to any questions here in a minute. I'll give people some time and we can come back in a minute. And some of the things that I loved is your reminder about fiber and moving and everything else. And I think about that, like us exercising and really keeping our body moving helps to kind of keep everything flowing. And that's really too like what fiber is really good to keep everything through. And so I love that in your book that you talked about fiber fueled as well. And I think it ties in perfectly with the product that we have Greg talking about tonight. And when I think about digestion and healing our gut and the ingredients, the marshmallow root and different things that Carly had talked about tonight, my real go-to for it, like I know it works, is GoodFibrations. And so tonight we've asked Greg Halliday, the founder and president of Soul Naturals, to come and tell us all about GoodFibrations and how it can help us to keep our guts running at their optimum.
My pleasure, Erica, and good evening, everyone. I just want to say to Carly, thanks. Thank you so much. That was a great class. I was sitting here thinking, our kids tomorrow here in our neighborhood, they go back to school. And I was thinking that information was so good, Carly. And so I'm comparing this to like school days. When you have to go to a class and you have to hear information on a regular basis, there's this amazing thing because over time it changes, it broadens your understanding, and at some point it sinks in, and it does change our behavior. I mean, I think there's lots of evidence of that. And I was thinking, if we had to listen every month, well, this isn't the world I wish we had. Somehow there's a way that like every month we get this alert, and Carly's class just replays every month. Because it was so well put, super, super key, vital points that were made. And if we just think about those and just do one thing in it that we can sort of level up, it's a different world. We have a different health because digestive health is that game changing. It is. I'm a really deep believer in that Hippocrates statement that you showed. The disease starts there because it's not that it initiates there. It's that a healthy gut mitigates it, manages it, but we don't have that because we're always weakening our gut. So if there's like a 1 month, listen to it every single month. Carly's class there. That's my little 2 cents for tonight. So hopefully I can just add a few nuggets about fiber, because GoodFibrations is our fiber of choice. It was designed to be quite versatile, because you can build a fiber supplement to be one specific thing, but fiber itself can do so many different things. And when you include it in different forms and from different sources, then all this complexity that Carly so simply has shared with us tonight gets addressed. Gaps get filled. Changes happen that won't happen without the diversity, which is why we built the GoodFibrations to be super diverse. And honestly, I'll tell you, some people wonder why we call it GoodFibrations, because most people don't like to take fiber. But if you've ever taken a really good quality fiber, they taste nasty. Well, GoodFibrations has this name because not only is it a huge variety of fibers that harmonize in their effect, but also it does not taste nasty. It really is quite good tasting due to the pear and the lime and the ginger and the unique blend there. We can thank Dr. Allison for it, because this was so much of that was her brainchild. Hopefully I can just add a couple of nuggets here on why GoodFibrations is a great ad every day. In fact, start small, and if you can, multiple times in the day before you take bigger scoops. There are 3 kinds of psyllium, and nowadays, even after all this, and there's so many sources of fiber and so much more known about fibers now, psyllium is still considered the gold standard. Why is psyllium the gold standard in fiber? Well, it is such a wonderful fiber. It's available in various mesh sizes. Why? Because if you get into our intestine, and Carly talked a little bit about it, there are different folds and creases, and psyllium is most of it is insoluble. The seed is soluble. We have 2 different forms of insoluble psyllium in GoodFibrations and 1 form of soluble in the psyllium seed. They perform different functions. And having different mesh sizes, which is what we include here, helps to be more thorough and deals with more aspects of not just bowel health and digestive health, but also how that relates to purifying blood, normalizing sugars, eliminating chemicals and toxins, reprocessing and reuptake of things. So it does a lot of different functions. And for the body to do that best, it does kind of need a variety of fibers and sizes. So that's where it starts. Carly mentioned a couple of mucilaginous herbs. Slippery elm and marshmallow are both in this, and she mentioned those. Here's a couple of fun facts just about slippery elm. It's a very mucilaginous fiber, which means it's very slick when it gets wet. It's slick because mucilage is a long chain of sugars that become slippery when you add water. And what they do is soothe, settle the digestive tract. They also absorb toxins, and they do perform a role in regular movement and peristalsis. So they do all those things. And I think that most of all, they can make a big difference in healing toxic conditions. So with acid, with even, Carly talked a little bit about too much permeability and leaky gut and conditions like that, that part of their healing process needs to be this cooling and soothing that gets the right environment where the body can do what it needs to do. So both marshmallow and slippery elm do that. That's why they're in there. They also, by the way, happen to be highly nutritious. So they bring nutrients. Now we have red raspberry in here as well. Why do we have red raspberry? Well, okay, the seed gives us those healthy fats that are in there, but you know, it is for the tannins, for the astringent properties, which are tissue toners. So you think about when you have good tone, everything really functions better. Organs stay where they need to be. I believe also that permeability in general of skin and of organs is better. That flow and the level of mucus not being stressed either in the extreme of being too dry or flowing too much. I believe that astringents play a role in all this. Well, red raspberry is one of those, and it's in the fiber because in general, it's our belief that today in our day and age, our digestive systems can all be better toned. And if we can bring better tone to them, we can get them where we need them to be so that they're functioning better. And I'll just mention, I mentioned a little bit about ginger and pear and lime, how they have great, I mean, Carly mentioned them, so I'm not gonna re-talk about what she mentioned, but with, for instance, pear is actually quite a good source. It is very hypoallergenic, one of the least allergenic of all fruits, if not the most hypoallergenic of the fruits. But it also has lovely fiber in it, but it's also a good source of potassium and copper, vitamin C, vitamin B2. It has some wonderful nutrition in it. It is a toner as well of the intestinal tract. And it really pairs well with lime, which is also a wonderful source of certain minerals, but also plant compounds that inhibit, for instance, things like kidney stones, give help to that whole elimination and fluids and mineral balance in the body. Lime is a great partner in that. That's also in GoodFibrations. I'll end with the adaptogen, holy basil. Not only is holy basil a great friend of kidneys, a great friend of the liver, but it is a calmer of the central nervous system. And it is true. I love the slides on stress that Carly shared. If you could get into one place and really make an impact, and that is our ability to manage stress, you probably can more quickly start to see change in your digestive system performance with management of stress than almost anything else, which is, I know, a pretty bold statement, but that's the reason that we have an adaptogen in a fiber product. Anyway, lots of stuff there. Back to you, Erica.
I love it. And I'm going to piggyback off of many of the comments that said that GoodFibrations tastes delicious. It absolutely does. And quite honestly, it's one of those things that you can have like as a dessert. If you're craving something sweet, you can have it as a dessert. I like to mix it in cinnamate because when I do, it's almost like something baked, right? Like a baked pear pie of some sort. So it gives it that cinnamon and pear, kind of combination flavor. It's absolutely delicious. And so it is probably the best tasting fiber on the planet. So I will give a piggyback to all the comments in here that say the same thing. So with that, so much good information tonight. Thank you so much, Carly. I think that we have answered all of the questions that were in here. So it looks like, unless anybody comes in. Yes, all good stuff. And so, of course, I want to say thank you to Greg as well. And so with that, I appreciate everybody for coming out tonight. Thank you so much, Carly and Greg, for all of your incredible information tonight. We so appreciate it. And I can't wait to see all of you back here in 2 weeks. Bye-bye. Have a great night.